In the Warhammer 40k universe, battles often stem down to grim struggles of attrition, especially in regards to the Astra Militarum's meat grinder. We've seen countless times in books and lore that battles are won and lost down to how well soldiers can dig in and hold the line. When fighting Xenos races like the Orcs, we've seen commanders lose ground and forces by attempting to use advanced tactics and strategies that the Orcs blissfully ignore. A great example of this is a battle between the Adeptus Mechanicus and Orc boys in the book Brutal Cunning. The Adeptus Mechanicus attempt to lure the Orcs into ambushes where elite units were hidden in weak areas, thinking the Orcs would exploit these weaknesses and attack there first. But misunderstanding an Orc's true nature, the Orc boys ignored the bait and ran head first to where the Mechanicus was feigning strength, looking for the best fight, and eventually throwing the Sicarii into a mass retreat. So when facing enemies like these, troops that rely more on grit and strength of will rather than tactics have a wider adoption rate by commanders, but also have a much larger survival rate. This is why the Elysian Drop Troopers are such a fascinating concept inside Warhammer 40k. As opposed to other regiments like the Death Corps of Krieg or the Valhalla Ice Warriors, the Elysians focus more on tactics, fire discipline, and battle doctrine to win combat encounters and operations. The Elysian Drop Troopers are airborne assault infantry, a rare sight inside the Astra Militarum. The Elysians are a valued asset to any Imperial Guard commander, harnessing their experience in aerial assaults. The Elysian Drop Troopers are agile, quick, and most importantly, unpredictable. The Elysian Drop Troopers hail from Elysia, a fertile civilised world in the Segmentum Solar, existing as part of a collection of Imperial colonised worlds, 30 light years from the hive world of Armageddon. Being relatively close to many Imperial worlds, and lying on a popular trade route, Elysia is a prime target for raids and piracy from both human pirates and Eldari corsairs. The Elysia system contains many asteroid fields and gas clouds, aiding the pirates in staying hidden from Imperial patrols and laying ambushes for unaware merchants and traders. The constant piracy led to the Elysian PDF forces to gain extensive experience in ship-to-ship combat while serving alongside naval forces. Working hand in hand with the naval force, the PDF conduct joint patrols and operations with the Imperial Navy, launching boarding actions and raiding pirate bases on planetoids in the system. The nature of launching missions from Navy ships also give the PDF experience in conducting aerial missions and drop assaults. With the effectiveness of the Planetary Defence Force in countering the piracy, Elysia was then selected to provide an Imperial Tithe regiment for service inside the Astra Militarum, with the majority of the Elysian PDF seeing more combat than your average Planetary Defence Forces. The Elysian government had a vast supply of experienced troops to call upon. The PDF troopers who are selected to join the Elysian Guard regiments are volunteer only. Each trooper is required to have completed at least one tour of combat duty in the Elysian PDF before entry into the Guard. Once selected for duty in the Astra Militarum, the Elysian Drop Troops then begin a course of extensive specialist training, focusing on the use of Grav-Chutes, high orbit insertions, marksmanship, and general survival. The combat doctrine of the Drop Troopers is then rigidly instilled upon them during this training period. The difficulty in learning this battle doctrine has developed Elysian Drop Troopers into highly trained individuals when compared to other regiments. Over their training, the troopers will become adept at using specialised equipment, high-grade armour and weaponry. Grav-Chutes, a staple of the Elysian Drop Troopers' arsenal of equipment, is a backpack-sized anti-gravity device. Using anti-gravity force, the Grav-Chutes can be used to drop from any height safely inside of a gravity well. Alongside Grav-Chutes, the Elysians also become accustomed to handling and operating inside Valkyrie gunships, which are invaluable to their operations. Another key part of their battle doctrine is an emphasis on marksmanship. Each trooper is on par, and sometimes better, than specialist snipers in other regiments. Although useful in combat, the real reason for their dedication to marksmanship is the nature of their battle tactics. When dropping behind enemy lines, the drop troopers can often go days and weeks without resupply. Simply put, when ammunition is in short supply, every shot must count. Due to the quality of the average trooper and access to a good supply of quality equipment, The Elysian Drop Troopers can maintain a high number of elite stormtroopers in comparison to other guard regiments. When it does come down to drop operations, the Elysians drop behind enemy lines with a simple aim: hit hard and hit fast. These surgical strikes often cause immediate confusion among enemy forces and defensive lines. Once dropped in an assault, Elysians continue to carry out rapid assaults on weak points, maintaining their combat structure and organisation. A regiment of the troopers can also function for a number of weeks without resupply. During long drawn out wars, the drop troops favour hit and run guerrilla tactics, hitting enemies in devastating ambushes, then disappearing before the enemies can muster up any sort of defence. Due to the emphasis on speed and agility, the Elysian Drop Troopers don't commonly make use of many standard Imperial armour, opting out for the slow Leman Ruff battle tanks and the Quillen Chimera carriers for Sentinel Walkers and Taros rapid assault vehicles. The sheer effectiveness of the Elysian Drop Troopers has helped them garner a strong reputation throughout the Imperium, with some particular regiments gaining prestige. With the amount of time I've sunk into Helldivers 2, I couldn't resist talking about the 1st Regiment. The 13th Elysian Drop Trooping Regiment, nicknamed the Helldivers, gained an heroic reputation while fighting on the Spinwood front. Their nickname was hard earned over many battles and operations inside the conflict. The Elysian Helldivers adopted a strategy of descending on enemy positions from directly above them, surviving hellish conditions while doing so. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? However, these tactics quickly thinned the number of the 13th, eventually leading to the regiment being used to bolster the 227th Drop Troops. The 23rd Regiment of the Elysian Drop Troops is another notable regiment in Imperial history. They served inside the Taros campaign and during one operation were a core asset inside the conflict. The Taros campaign was a planetary assault against the Tau to reclaim the mineral-rich desert world, Taros. Fighting against a combined force of the Tau, Crew and human Guvisa, the Imperial forces faced fierce resistance. During the campaign, the Tau soon gained the upper hand. After 40 days of fighting, the Imperial troops on planet were facing a lack of food and water. Imperial forces started to suffer from mass attrition, with men dropping like flies from dehydration. The Imperial commanders decided to launch Operation Comet, an assault on the main water production facility on the desert planet, currently held by the Tau. Due to the unique training of the Elysian Drop Troopers, they were brought into the operation in order to drop in the hydro processing plant and hold it until a new offensive from the Imperial forces would relieve the Elysians. Over a rushed planning phase, the Drop Troopers were organised into multiple waves, ready for tactical insertions over multiple days, with plans to reinforce and resupply the Elysians once the plant was captured. The first assault by the Drop Troopers quickly overran the human Gufessa defenders. Striking hard and fast, the Elysians swept through the facility. Victory seemed secure. However, to the dismay of the Elysian officers, the attackers quickly came into combat with Kroot. Caught in fierce hand-to-hand combat, the first wave of Drop Troopers were forced into a retreat. Using mobile mortar artillery and other heavy weapons, the Drop Troopers softened up the Kroot positions with a barrage of heavy fire. Reorganised, and with fresh momentum, the Elysians launched a renewed attack, pushing the Kroot back. By the end of the first day of combat, the Elysian Drop Troopers had captured the plant, but not without sacrifice. The first wave of Elysians had taken heavy losses, and in the fierce firefight had expended a great deal of their ammo. With the perimeter of the compound secure, the Elysians dug into their defensive positions and waited impatiently for the second wave to arrive for resupply. With the water plant secure, the second wave of Drop Troopers were mobilised to drop and reinforce their comrades. However, with the element of surprise lost, the Tau were now aware of the assault. Tau commanders ordered the launch of interceptor aircraft to counter the Valkyries dropping on the plant. Lacking the manoeuvrability of the Tau aircraft, a large portion of the Elysian reinforcements were shot down, causing confusion among the ranks. On the ground, the Tau began to consolidate their forces for a brutal counter-attack. Surrounded on all fronts, the Elysians prepared heavy weapon positions, traps, and fortifications, awaiting the dreaded assault. With the reinforcements en route, the Elysians took a beating from Tau air forces. Tau bombers bombarded the Elysian positions in an attempt to soften up their defensive points. showing complete disregard for their infrastructure of the water processing facility, causing horrendous collateral damage. Following these relentless bombing runs, calculated and methodical as ever, the Tau began their attempt to retake the facility, unleashing an ungodly amount of firepower. Accompanying the Tau Fire Warrior infantry and Kroot mercenaries were a contingent of hammerhead tanks and Tau battlesuits, posed to overpower the Elysian heavy weapons and sentinel walkers. However, with the help of heavily dug in positions, dogged determination, and the extensive training, the Tau struggled to retake the facility. Every attack was met with fierce resistance, and when moving closer in range, the Tau found themselves quickly outmaneuvered by the Drop Troopers. As the fighting intensified, it became clear to Tau commanders that the firepower alone could not rout the well-trained Elysians. During this vicious firefight, the survivors of the second drop of Elysian troopers finally arrived. However, on arrival, the Drop Troopers were hit with anti-aircraft fire from the Tau. The Valkyrie dropships had to break formation on arrival, scattering the second wave of Drop Troopers across the battlefield. Some managed to stay on target and dropped inside the perimeter of the compound, while others dropped into no man's land, and an unlucky few dropping directly on Tau positions. The Tau focused all weapons fire on these reinforcements, causing heavy losses on the second drop wave, exploiting their vulnerability when dropping in. Taking a brief respite from the Tau firepower, the Elysian Drop Troopers of the first wave watched in horror as their comrades were slaughtered, quietly praying for the Imperial relief column to come into view. For the rest of the second day, fighting was sporadic, while the survivors of the second wave regrouped and joined the Elysian positions. After 2 days of harsh fighting, the plant was a ruin, a scrapyard with the tired and injured guardsmen making use of whatever cover they could find. Overnight, the Valkyries and Vultures of the Elysians attempted to give air support to their comrades on the ground, but with the plant being significant distance from Imperial air bases, the support they could give was sporadic and short, as they would have to return for refuel. On the third day of this fierce operation, the Tau renewed their attack with urgency, now aware of the Imperial relief column heading their way. The Tau employed one of the strongest weapons in their arsenal, a Manta gunship. With the unrelenting cannons and sheer firepower of the Manta supporting them from overhead, the Tau moved forward. Although throwing everything they had against the Tau, the Elysians were pushed back inch by inch. The Drop Troopers, bloody, beaten, and low on supplies, were fully pushed back to their last pocket of defence. The Tau commanders offered surrender to the Elysians, but loyal to a fault, the Elysians refused. In a last stand, the Elysians were annihilated. Operation Comet of the Taros campaign is a perfect example of the harsh reality of what the Elysian Drop Troopers face with every drop, often having to viciously fight for defences and then hold them until relief forces arrive. Your standard Elysian Drop Trooper is better equipped than some elite troops of other guard regiments. They use Mark IV Acatran pattern light guns, accompanied with 5 charge cells. Impressively, they are armoured in Mark XII carapace armour, made from moulded plates of armourplast and ceramite. Carapace armour is expensive and is generally a sign of status inside the Imperial Guard. As a standard kit as well, they are armed with their Grav-Chutes and Type 5 pressure helmets, specifically designed for high altitude. Their helmets also come with an equipped photo visor, advanced lenses that support low light vision. Alongside your standard trooper, the Elysians also employ specialist roles, which include the use of heavy bolters, missile launchers, melter guns, plasma guns, long-last snipers, and flamers. Overall, the Elysian Drop Troopers are an example of the sheer variety of forces we have in the Astra Militarum, showing a sharp change against the standard mass assault meat grinder stereotype of the Guard. Thanks for joining me today, guys. What do you think of the Elysian Drop Troopers? Do you like a fresh new take on Imperial Guard regiments? Or do you think the change of pace for the Guard is against what the Astra Militarum should be? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a couple of videos in the works, a Space Marine chapter lore video, and part 3 in the entire Warhammer 40k timeline coming soon as well. I've also been toying with the idea of brushing up my animation skills and doing a video on the full Taros campaign with animated troop movements. If that interests you, let me know below. If you've enjoyed my content today guys, please leave me a thumbs up and subscribe, it really helps. See you all in a bit.